Hey, hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess. And I know you're like, girl, I know you're not posting on March wrap. Yes, I am, okay? I am 4 days into my fun employment, but I've had a lot to do outside of YouTube the last few days. So now I am clocking in to my YouTube bag full time. So I have lots to catch up on, okay? So you're gonna get this wrap up. It might not be much because I was like, let me go back to Goodreads, refresh myself on what I read in March. Why did I think it was more than I did? I mean, I still did read a lot, but I didn't realize that I mostly read manga and fanfic. And fanfiction is reading, but I'm just not here to talk to you about those. Nar. So anyway, I read 9 volumes of manga, and then I did read, let me look again. I think I finished 2 books. I read 2 novels. No, I read 3 novels, but I already talked to you about one, and that was the My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. If you want to see my meltdown, my drunken rant, I will link that here. But I read that, unfortunately, in March. And so I will, should I do these first or the novels? I'll just go ahead and talk about these. So I started I started Fullmetal Alchemist finally in March. I was supposed to read this a while ago. My bad. Sorry, Elliot. And I didn't read it. Anyway, I wasn't reading manga then when I was supposed to read it, and then, you know, I read Spy Family and that helped me get more into manga, and so I already had the first 2 omnibuses, so I was like, ooh, so in March I primarily read this. And I know 9 volumes of manga doesn't really take you that long, but I was just reading this in fanfiction. So anyway, Fullmetal Alchemist, I have read more in April. I'm not finished yet, but I did end up buying all of the volumes because I had owned the first 2 omnibuses, and I was like, oh, I'll just get the rest from the library. Well, my physical library didn't have them. My e-library did not have them. They weren't on the manga reading apps, and so I ended up going through Crunchyroll, I believe is what it's called, and buying all of them, except this one I had to get off of Pango because this one was out of stock everywhere. Anyway, so Fullmetal Alchemist, we have, is it Ulrich, Eric, and Alphonse? I'm so bad with names. Edward, Elric, and Alphonse, 2 brothers, and so this is Fullmetal Alchemist, so they're alchemists, but they're very young. And when the story starts, I can't remember how old they are, but he is the older brother, and then he's the younger brother. So we get flashbacks to what happened to them. Essentially, their father left and they were left with their mother, and she got sick and she passed away. And so using alchemy, they tried to bring her back, which is a big cardinal sin, a big no-no. We do not use alchemy on human beings, but they tried anyway. They were like, we found it. We took all this time. We took we have all of this knowledge. We're going to do it. We're bringing our mother back. And they brought back something. And it was not human-like. It was a thing. So anyway, in that process, some things happened. It was like the universe, the alchemical gods, whatever you want to call it, basically took this brother, Alphonse, and Edward had to basically sacrifice to try to get him back. So Alphonse, is in this big metal body, and he lost an arm and a leg, and he has a metal arm and a leg. So Fullmetal Alchemist. Anyway, he ends up being contracted into the state military. So he's a state alchemist. So he, as they like to call them throughout these volumes, is a dog of the military. And that's kind of the basis of these. But they're really on a search to try to figure out how to get his body back, to get their original bodies back. And that leads them through all of these adventures, these quests, these things that they're doing both by themselves and some in conjunction with the military. And I quickly, after the first 3 volumes was invested, I don't know, I just really love them. I find the art really fun, especially how the emotions are depicted in the art. I really love. And He's really short, and they always are making fun of his height. And I just find it really funny. So I find the humor funny, but then there's really sentimental moments because they really are close. And then they have, is she technically their cousin? Their cousin and grandma that they like will go back to because the cousin, I can't remember her name because I'm terrible with names, works on what they call auto mail. So like his arm and his leg. And I think she's a delight. And I just really enjoy seeing where this story has gone. And it's been really interesting, and obviously I only have, wow, I keep putting it in the wrong order. I don't know how to talk about books anywhere. I only have the first 9 here, but I've gotten through, did I read through 12 maybe? And so the twists and turns, I'm like, what's going on? Without trying to spoil, we also have, how do I explain it? So obviously there's lots of, so with the alchemy, we have the Philosopher's Stone, which is something that they're looking for because that's supposed to be like this all-powerful thing. They think that's going to be the thing to give them their bodies back. But they are also coming across basically like the 7 deadly sins, but like in a body. So there's like gluttony and greed, and there's a plot with them, and like the way things are intertwining and overlapping and interlocking, I'm like, every time I feel like I finish a volume, one of the omnibuses, I'm like, I did not. And then, oh my God. And then I get to another one, I'm like, oh, I know you didn't. I just find these really entertaining, and I just, entertaining, but also like I have a connection. I'm really invested in what happens to the brothers. So like heartwarming, but like great plot twist. So I'm having a good time. And so I will continue. I would like to finish. I wanted to finish during April, and it doesn't seem like that's gonna happen just because I keep not prioritizing it. But like, it's so easy for me to sit down and like, I don't know, a volume may take me 45 minutes maybe. And so I could do it, I just don't. Anyway, that's a babble about these. So if you've read Fullmetal Alchemist, let me know your thoughts. I know also it's an anime, which I have not watched yet. I would like to finish this first, but Spy Family really really got me into manga, and this is like, I'm like, ooh, okay, I really see the potential. I see what manga can fully be, because like I really do enjoy Spy Family, but I am loving these. Like everything has been 4 or 5 stars, so amazing. And then other than that, obviously I told you I wrote the Tessa Bailey. No, I did not write that. I will never claim to have written that. I read the Tessa Bailey, so go watch that video. But I also read this book. Now, Robin can't be trusted. Just kidding. She sent me this video, and it was like, if you like the Risa Tisa, you know, Who the Fuck Did I Marry series, you should read these books. Now, it is on me that I did not read the synopsis of the book, didn't look at who the author was and what other books they read. I will take responsibility for that. But Robin sent me this TikTok, so I'm gonna blame her too. Anyway, this book was in the TikTok, and it's called Disappearing Acts by Terry McMillan. Had I looked and seen who Terry McMillan was, I would have seen that she also wrote How Stella Got Her Groove Back. And, you know, interesting. So I also thought this was a newer book because of the cover, and did not realize that was a newer cover, but this book is originally written in 2004. It was published in 2004, so I did not know that. And again, that's on me. That's on me. That's on me. But this is categorized as a romance. And excuse me, I thought that a romance was supposed to be happily ever after. I hated this. I really did. And I don't think I rated it because I just felt so conflicted, because again, I know I shouldn't have read this, but it was just so like, what was this set in the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, maybe the early 90s? And we have our main character, Zora. She is trying to become a singer. She, you know, works. She's independent. She has her own apartment. She meets this man who is struggling. And he is married still, but I don't think they're together. I think they have a child. And he's just always like, has a job, loses a job. And there are various reasons to that, because this talks about like discrimination and racism and different practices that were going on, because this is like in New York City. But they just have this really unhealthy relationship. And it was I just did not like it at all. And there was just so many times something would happen in the book, and I was like, girl, this is your time. This is your time to go. And she would like, but then come back to him. And I know that's what happens in real life, but it was so toxic. He was so terrible, abusive, like, it was, I hated it so much. Like, I was like, am I supposed to be rooting for this? Am I supposed to be rooting for someone who is taking your money and making you do these things you don't want to do, and, you know, perpetuating all of the things they said, like, basically setting you up to think they're gonna be this, and then letting you down and not being that, and dragging you down with them, and just like, oh my god, it was just struggle on toxic behavior on toxic behavior. And I was like, just so mad at myself. I listened to the audio. It wasn't super long, but I just would be, when I listened to it, because he was the worst. What was his name? Franklin? This says, in this funny, gritty love story, there is nothing funny about this. Do we call toxic behaviors gritty? Okay, like, let's not do that. It was, no. I wouldn't even want to watch this as a movie. Like, this was awful. He was terrible to her. She deserved better. She was doing good on her own, and he just drug her down, and I hated it so much. And she had some interesting friends, and he had an interesting family, and just not a good time. I don't recommend it. So anyway, that's a failure on me. That's my bad. Yikes. And lastly, I read Tempest of Tea. This was the pick for my patrons picked for me to read and review for them in March. Yes, March. And overall, I really did like it. I have not read We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal, whatever the first duology that she wrote. I have not read that. But I did read this one, and I have a more in-depth review on my Patreon, obviously. But I don't know what I rated it, like a 3.75 rounded up to a 5. So we have vampires in this world, and I really wanted to read this because I don't know if y'all remember when it was first, like, the title and like concept of the book were announced. Everyone was like, oh my god, she's copying Leigh Bardugo. This is just like Six of Crows but with vampires. So I was like, let me read it because y'all are dumb. And so while I will say this is not copying Six of Crows, it does feel like inspired by, but it is a very different book. Obviously one vampires. But we do have young adults who don't have family in the traditional sense, or parents around, and they're kind of like running kind of underground businesses. And so Arthie and Jim, I can't remember his name, are the main two characters, although we do get a third POV from a character named Flick, and I just hate that nickname so much. But during the day it's a tea house, but at night it's like a social club basically for vampires. And my biggest complaint about the book was I feel like the vampires were there, but I wanted more of them. I wanted them to be more front and center. Like, it was still an integral part of the story, but it didn't seem to be as much the focus. And it is a heist story, but that's not all. I will say that obviously we get the introduction to the world and the characters, and then we have the heist, but the heist reveals something else that they now have to work to. So it's not the entire book just working up to the heist and the heist happening. It is that preparation, finding who's going to be involved in the heist, what they're going to do, why they're doing it, the heist. But then they're like, oh fuck, I thought this was going to solve our problem. Now we've uncovered another layer, another issue to this problem, and then there's more from there. And so there were some twists and turns that I really did like, and some I saw coming, some I did not like, but didn't see coming in the way of like left field. Like, there were little hints where I was like, is this what she's trying to tell me? And then it was like, yes, confirmed, which I love that. And I didn't connect as much with the characters as I would have liked. It is reminiscent of Six of Crows, that when we're in their POVs, we do get little glimpses of like their little flashbacks to their lives before to figure out how they got here, but I don't feel like we got as much, or maybe I just wasn't enough for me to feel connected to them. I think Jin, I can't remember what his name is, was my favorite. It was really funny and witty, and like, they have, him and Arthi have like this brother-sister relationship, but there are things that they're hiding from each other, and we do get a little bit of exploration on what some of that is. There were some romantic undertones, which I didn't care for, of course. I didn't necessarily, like, they weren't the focus, which I was thankful for, but I also, and maybe because it was the first book, maybe it'll feel different in the second one, but I just was like, I don't know if I'm buying it necessarily. But again, lots of themes about colonialism and corruption in government, and you know, queer people and people of color being subjugated and trying to have a place in this world that they didn't really have a choice in coming to. So a lot of different topics, but again, I wanted, and maybe it'll happen in the second book, because towards the end we do get some vampire-y stuff. And there are obviously vampires in the book, but I just wanted that to be like the forefront. Not necessarily like I need like them biting into someone's neck on page or something, but I don't know how to explain it, but to say I want more vampire focus in the next one, because I am interested to read the next one. I don't know if this is supposed to be a duology or a trilogy, but I still enjoyed it. I thought that now the pacing was a little off, like it was slow in the beginning and then it picked up, but I still enjoyed it enough that I would be interested to read the next one, and I hope that we get more character depth from the characters. I don't know if I want any other POVs. I think I'm good with the ones we have, so more character depth, hopefully more vampirism, whatever, and I'm sure there'll be more romance, which I don't need, but I still thought it was a good time. And so in addition to that, I read a bunch of fanfic. I don't know how many words. If I feel like looking up the word count, I'll put it on the screen, but that was it. I thought I read a lot more in March, like published works to talk to you about. Just kidding. I have read more in April though, and I will try to film my April wrap up more timely, but hey, this is a shorter video to edit for me, so praise be. Did you read anything exciting in March? Anything like outstanding, or anything just so fucking deplorable that you're still mad about it? Because my killer vacation is that for me. But that's all that I got, so thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves, stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, sunscreen. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.